On this episode, I have Jim Stevens of M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics joining me today to talk about, what he's learned throughout his career as far as becoming an exceptional leader and the top tricks behind how you retain that top talent. Jim, I wanted to thank you for joining me on this episode.
My pleasure.
From the first time I met you, I think what really stood out to me was the fact that you take a different approach to leadership and running a team and organization. So would you mind just sharing a little bit more about, who you are, what you do, and your leadership style?
Sure. So I'm an Army brat. I was born in Germany, California, Leavenworth, back to Germany, and then my family settled in Northern Virginia. But from a fundamental standpoint, Virginia wasn't home until, I was well through grade school, and so I had to kind of go through making friends and all those challenges growing up. And, I went to college and found my way back to the D.C. area. But an Army brat at heart and really a military brat at heart. My father raised me to essentially honor the foundational principles of being a good person, treating people with care and respect, and being loyal, always doing the right thing, are ingrained in not only me but my three brothers and sisters. And so that's really who I am, and that's who I want to be for those that I'm serving alongside on the team or whoever I come across.
And definitely, you can see that you exemplify that in the work that you're doing. So
thank you.
I can tell that you're passionate about what you do and passionate about, your people that you work with, as well as growing and developing them. So could you share a little bit more about, just what do you do on a daily basis and the impact that you're making, not only within your organization, but also out in the community?
Sure. So I run M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics. We're part of the Muscular Moving Men family. Very proud of that. Located in North Phoenix. I moved out here 7 months ago. I got here Super Bowl Sunday.
Woohoo! A fun weekend.
Yeah, a fun weekend. I really thought I was going to be able to see Ricky win on 18, but it drove, I think, 31 hours and 35 total hours. So I was pretty exhausted when I got into town, but I run the day-to-day operation, and, I like to think of myself, and I know we've said this before, but I'm in the retention business. I help run M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics. We move businesses that are in a transitional point, whether they're growing or they're downsizing. We can move anything, anytime, anywhere. But really, at the end of the day, the more we retain our talented people, the more we're doing for them, the longer term they'll stay with us, and the greater we can invest in what they're doing and see a return on that investment. So my job really at its core is to inspire and do everything that I can to ensure that the people that are most important to us, our backbone, if you will, are growing and accomplishing the goals that they have for themselves.
Not everyone within an operations role takes that same approach. And so I love that. That definitely is in alignment with the events that we host at AZ BizLink. I mean, we're all about trying to find opportunities to help businesses with attracting and retaining top talent. So you certainly have done a phenomenal job with retaining your talent, but could you share, I know the one that really stands out to me, the first time we met at coffee, you were talking about that morning you guys did a team building activity around doing an egg toss.
We did.
Do you mind just sharing what that even looked like?
Sure. So I think to give it some backstory, the moving industry as a whole has a big challenge in retaining crew-level employees. Unfortunately, the industry underappreciates the impact that crew-level employees has on an organization like ours. I call them our backbone. So the team members that are interfacing with our clients and ensuring that they're getting taken care of are so critically important to us. They're our spine. You can't do anything without a spine. And so we have all hands meetings on a monthly basis, and my partners and I, Josh Jurhill and Justin Hodge, founded Muscular Moving Men, and they're my partners on the M3 side of the business. It's fun in our executive team meetings coming up with creative ways that we can create a fun and competitive environment, which is what we're about. So we had the egg tossed. We always have an incentive for our team and a reward for the team that wins. We've done an egg toss. We've done a dodgeball tournament. We've done a football relay. We've actually just decided to do an Olympics in December. So we're going to bring all the events together, and the entire team meeting will be splitting teams up, and we're going to have a big trophy for the winner. So it's little details like that make a small impact to give us the culture that we want to have and that we can be proud of. So I'm a fist pump guy. So I love nothing more than when we're done with those team meetings that we've got a bunch of, our backbone coming up to me and giving me fist pumps and saying they're excited about what they just did.
So by doing some of those events and exercises, you're building trust amongst a lot of your other team members. What else or what other value do you find that you get out of doing those events?
Trust is fundamentally most important, not only outside of our organization, obviously. That's what we're attempting to earn with our customers, but also internally within the organization. But, we're trying to create an environment where people feel comfortable to be who they are and express who they are. So, and we're also trying to create an environment where, we're focusing on team building and cultural development that aligns with going into the field and best representing our core values and providing a client with a great experience. So there's a number of different foundational principles that we'd like to say we focus on. You can't get to all of them sometimes, but, I think if anybody came by our team meetings, they would see a pretty fun, dynamic environment, and that is completely what it's intended to be.
Another thing that I've heard you talk about is just wellness in the workplace and how you guys really focus on that. And you even mentioned that you're upgrading your gym facility.
We are.
You mentioned that there's also another big event that you're getting ready to host. Do you mind sharing a little bit more on that?
I'd be happy to. We've just decided as a team, November 9th, we are going to have a Pump It Up for the Community event. So Muscular Moving Men was founded by Josh Sherhill, who's a former Mr. Natural Arizona bodybuilder, and Justin Hodge, his best buddy, that he grew up going to the Boys and Girls Club of America right here in Phoenix. They love sports. They love competing. And when they started Muscular Moving Men, they saw a niche in the market where, most crew-level employees are overweight. Most crew-level employees in the industry, unfortunately, smoke. They don't take care of themselves. And their tagline early on, and it's stuck with the company, is muscles for a move made easy. So they really exemplified muscular moving men assisting clients. So when they opened the facility in North Phoenix, Cave Creek in the 101, it was critical that they dedicate square footage to a gym. So we've got a gym in our facility for our team to use. We'll have crew members getting into the gym 6 to 7 o'clock, and we've got another wave of crew members that'll come in 4 to 5, and we give them an opportunity to work out. And again, create that team culture. We've got fitness competitions that we put on, but the health and wellness event that we're going to be putting on, we have essentially 5 community partners that we're going to be partnering with. We're going to be charging $25 per adult to attend, $5 for kids. It'll showcase our facility, but we're going to bring in professional trainers to run essentially a fitness circuit over the course of about an hour. It'll go from 10 to 12 on November 9th, and 100% of the proceeds are going to benefit our 5 community partners. So, I think it's critical that we're a positive vehicle for the community. And while M3 is in the infancy stage of its development, certainly Muscular Movement Men has been around for 11 years, and we're constantly donating the transportation of goods and services for other community partners so that they can accomplish the missions that they have.
I think you guys are one of many great companies here in the local community that continue to grow, and you guys are thriving. And so I love providing the platform for us to share, your story. But I know I'm not the only one that recognizes all of your efforts and accomplishments. Who did you guys receive an award from today?
Thank you. No, we were so surprised and humbled and just grateful. The Phoenix Business Journal recognized us with the Innovation Award for the Small Business Awards this morning. We were so honored. The individuals and the businesses in the room just have made such a positive impact. So just to be included in the conversation was something we will always look back on very fondly and to be able to say that we played a small part in that is pretty darn neat.
Congratulations on that again.
Thank you. Thank you.
One of the interesting aspects about the conversations that we've had in the past is the fact that you recently moved here to Arizona, and everyone that knows me knows that I'm all about, I'm the biggest cheerleader here of our community, just because I think, Phoenix is a really great place to not only do business, but to bring your family and to grow overall. So I would love to hear, what it's been like getting acclimated here in the local community over the last 7 months.
Oh man, where do I start? Obviously, we were going into unknown territory. I mentioned that my family moved to Northern Virginia in the mid-'90s. I went to school in Pennsylvania and came back. So it's the first time that I've ever really been away from home. But, in Phoenix, I saw such a tremendous opportunity. Number one, just in the sunshine. I know I'm relatively new to the area, and but I hope people don't take for granted the value of sun in your life every single day. And when you think of health and wellness, it runs so parallel with that. So I saw an opportunity for my young children. I've got a 6-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and a 1-year-old to really be involved in a vibrant community. I see there has been such a willingness to support me and my family by those around us in Phoenix. I never would have imagined that we would be welcomed with such open arms, and not only us as a family, but also as a business in Phoenix. So, I think Phoenix is only going to continue to rise and continue to be more and more attractive for those that are looking for a change of pace like we were.
So when you're not busy working, which I know you work quite a bit, in your free time, how are you enjoying everything that our community has to offer?
Well, I'm a family guy. My wife is at home with the kids, so she works a lot harder than I do. But I love spending time with them. Coming out to Phoenix was very much a 50-50 move for me. I had helped build a pretty successful business out on the East Coast, but I can't say that I look back and am proud of the father and the husband that I was. It allowed me to reset my core values, and I was a guy that was up at 5 and gone by 5:30 in the morning out on the East Coast, and I'm proud to say that most mornings out in Phoenix, I have breakfast with my children. I help them get out the door. So I'm spending more time with my family, going out, riding bikes, doing cannonballs in the pool. My daughter wants me to come up with a creative cannonball every single day. So.
And what's the best one you've come up with so far?
Oh man, we've done the firework cannonball. We've done the squirrel cannonball last week. I don't know how you do that, but you know what? There's nothing better than the innocence of a child, and my children absolutely love it out here. Pools in Virginia are closed. They closed over Labor Day, so the fact that I can get home tonight and do another cannonball with my kids is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and with you guys being relatively new to our community, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys are still in the swimming pool in December, because I know that's what happened to a lot of us.
I know. Yeah. So someone recently said that it gets so cold, and the Thursday before I left D.C. it was -3.
Right.
My kids had cabin fever coming up with the forts in the basement back in Virginia. Now, you know what? 50 degrees is warm to us to a certain extent. So you're exactly right. It's exciting, and the hiking and just being outside and not, feel the need to be inside all the time, I think is very refreshing.
So I would love to learn a little bit more about the tools, the resources, the books, the blogs. What do you look to as you're looking to develop your best practices as well as, that for your team?
Anything and everything. Where do I start? I'm so inspired by those that are making an impact in the business community. What you're doing is really inspiring to me and to so many others. Just in Phoenix, I can think of individuals that have really positively impacted the community. I find that when I meet someone, I'm not consumed with talking about men in trucks. I said that earlier. I'm going to go back to the office and we're going to be talking about projects that we're taking on, but finding out what makes people tick and what motivates people is something that I've always kind of naturally gravitated to. And I've been the benefactor of a lot of really great individuals that have turned back to me and said, how can I help you get to the next level of where you want to go? So, I think of mentors, and in my life, my father, Rocco Balsamo, Vince Barano, these are individuals that you may not know about, but, who I am, certainly, they have made a big impact. And then there are others, mainstream business leaders, the Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you're doing, they buy why you're doing it. Obviously motivate me to I don't want to say think outside the box, but challenge myself to take the next step as much as I can. So it's a great time to be in Phoenix and taking on the challenges of everyday business.
Well, it's clear that you've had some great mentors because you've been able to develop into such a great leader here in the community.
Thank you.
I'm curious, as you're mentoring other individuals, or if you were just to give advice to other young professionals, what are the top things that you would highly encourage them to think about, or best practices or whatnot?
Oh, you're talking to a guy that 10 years ago you may not recognize who I was. And I think some of the mentors that I just mentioned may be watching this and laughing. I had to learn so much as a young professional just about teamwork and, selflessly serving others. I know that's a term that may be overplayed, but the advice that I can provide to others is, the more you progress in a leadership role, the bigger your servant's towel needs to become. That was a pretty profound statement that I heard at some point. The reality is go-givers sell more. Those that are not putting their hand out saying, what can you do for me? Those that are turning to others and saying, how can I support and help you? Are those that are making an impact. So, that's probably the number one piece of advice that I can provide. Give and don't expect to receive. If you can do that fundamentally, you're well ahead of where I was, 10, 15 years ago.
That kind of leads into corporate social responsibility and philanthropic involvement. Can you share a little bit more about your thoughts and ideas around that?
Yes, absolutely. I think look, we all need to play a part in making our community and the environment around us a little bit better. And, M3 opened its doors February 11th, and we are off to a great start thanks to the team that we have and the great clients and partners that we have. It's been very important to me and my partners that we are playing our part and making a positive impact, and as I like to say it, we're a positive vehicle for the community. And that will only grow and expand. The idea is that we're not going to be where we're at now 5 years from now. Hopefully we've grown multiple times over, and our philanthropic and community involvement efforts have just grown with that. So
a lot of our listeners love to steal or borrow best practices of other local leaders. And so one thing, you had recently shared with me about how your leadership took a lot of your team members down to Rocky Point to celebrate their accomplishments and then also recognize them with some awards. Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about that in case somebody else wants to steal that idea?
Yeah, sure. Sure. No, it was really fun to develop and think about. Oftentimes in our executive team huddles, we have a 30-minute huddle on a weekly basis where we get together as an executive team, and it's more to ensure that we're working on the business and not in the business. I think when we step outside of those walls, I don't want to use the term chaos, but look, there's a lot going on and we need to wear a lot of hats. So it's 30 minutes that we get to work on the business and talk about what we can be doing better. And one of the discussions, 3-4 months ago, we've been blessed and fortunate that the business is doing so well. And, again, we're in the retention business. What can we do to create a positive and valuable environment for our team so that they feel appreciated? And literally, it was a 5-minute conversation. I turned to Josh and said, Josh, it's been a dream of mine for years and years, and I've always been shot down up to this point. But what do you think about trying to take key members of the team and their significant others out of town to really have a team bonding experience where it's not about the business? We're building a relationship with them, and we're away from the daily grind. So in literally a few minutes, he was on a website looking at Las Palomas and booking penthouses, and it just took off from there. So I think when we announced that, the employees on our team were blown away by it. We took 15 and their significant others down to Rocky Point, and we had a dinner, the only business thing that we did. We had a dinner on Friday night, and we had individual awards that they had no idea that they were receiving, and they were spec'd individual awards that we handed out to each team member and Justin Hodge talked about the impact that each one had. And you could just see on their face how blown away they were. And I don't think they realize that we are more in debt to them than the other way around. Again, our servants' towel only continues to increase as we progress as an organization and continue to scale. And if we do that, I think, our goal is that employees will be a part of our organization because they want to be there, not because they feel like they have no other options.
So being in the retention business, obviously you offer some pretty cool opportunities, or you tend to think outside the box. Is there anything else that really stands out to you that you guys have done over the course of the last 7 months that may be of interest to other individuals?
Well, we're so proud and humbled that BSN Sports and Nike decided to partner with us overall and support our business.
How does that happen? How does Nike just decide to partner with somebody?
Well, I in a former life, I played soccer, and coming into the culture at Muscular Movement, you see how fit team members are in making their jobs easier on a day-to-day basis, and we've rebranded in the last 6 to 7 months that we no longer provide movers to our clients; they're mover athletes because they really are. And so I approached an old coach and asked for his support to connect with the individuals at Nike and talk to them about our story and the fact that they needed to come and evaluate our business and see if it was a good fit. And all of a sudden I'm getting a call from BSN Sports, and they came out and toured the facility, and I think they were pretty blown away at what they saw. And so we never thought it could be possible, but now Nike provides us apparel
and I'm just thinking the impact that makes. I mean, if employees are wearing a really nice Nike shirt,
Yep.
I'm sure they're proud to show up on the job wearing that uniform, per se. So that's really neat that you guys have done that.
Well, we thank you. We had them sign each one of our team members sign a contract, and it starts with, as a BSN Sports M3 Nike athlete, I will, and it's got core value commitments that align with our core values, but also, again, being a good human being. And we've got those plaques hung out in our gym. It's kind of a call to arms, if you will, of the commitment that they've made. But you're 100% right. Morale has been raised, as we said when we were unveiling the partnership overall. We did it for them. It was interfacing. The fact that people know that the partnership exists is a really neat thing for us. But what people don't realize is it's not a marketing ploy. We're not doing it so that we can blast out. In fact, if you look at our social media presence, we largely aren't blasting it out to the community, because for us it's more about appreciating what our crew level employees are doing and providing them with top level apparel that they can go out and be proud of when wearing our brand. So
we've loosely talked about some of your values that the organization has. Curious, how connected or tied in do you feel like your employees are to the values of the organization, and how often do you kind of go back or reflect or modify or even change those?
Very connected. I worked for a really, really great organization out on the East Coast where core values were in the fabric of the organization. And, certainly as I was evaluating whether it was a good fit for me to come out to Phoenix and launch M3, core value focus was keystone for me. So, little things like having our team members randomly recite our core values, but also kicking it up a notch. You can talk about core values all you want. We always take it a step further and ask what it means to that particular individual.
I love that.
And what an impact it makes for our clients. So I think just by talking about core values, I don't want to use the term baseless, but it can be lost in translation. Trying to ask that extra subset of questions, really kind of drills home what we're about, and also the impact that it's made on the individual brings it home as well. So
I think that's great. There's a lot of organizations where they have a list of values, but nobody knows what they are. Mm-hmm. And so it's been great as I've been talking to other local leaders here in the community, how they've kind of talked about that. Some of them have them posted in their office.
Yep.
But the stories that I really love are those individuals that are like, yeah, we used to have these 5, but over time we've modified or changed them to better align with our people and the direction in which our company was heading. So love to hear that you're practicing and embodying it and that everybody is on board and on the same page.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because a month ago in one of the executive team huddles, we talked about potentially adding 1 or 2 core values, because right now community involvement is not in, but it's very much a core value, even though it's not listed. When you walk into our office, you can see our core values there. Community involvement probably is the next one to join the conversation. So at the end of the day, we don't want to, we need to walk the walk. It's not about talking the talk. So
absolutely. So when you are looking for top talent or top performers for your organization, what are you really looking for?
A good question. I want people that want to make a positive impact join our team. So it's really somebody once mentioned it as give a crap, if you will.
Yeah.
That's the first keystone that they look for. Somebody that really cares. We're in an industry that's not rocket science, but it is technical. So if you have the fundamentals, we can teach you the industry basics. So really for me, it's can I trust this person? Can they be trusted? How much are they going to care about the organization? The individual's concept of team. We're looking into PI index testing and evaluating personalities, and I firmly believe in that. In our leadership retreat here later in the year, we'll be talking about potentially signing on a company that can do that for us. But really at its essence, it's, what type of person are we considering? Not much more technical than that. We'll get into everything else if you kind of get past that first, I wouldn't even call it hurdle.
What are you guys doing to offer professional development or growth within your organization? Good
question. It's a great retention question overall. So we're partnered with the International Office Moving Institute with M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics. They are a best-in-class training organization. So at the crew level, we're providing our team the ability to get IOMI certified, which IOMI is an outside entity. There's a lot of moving companies that preach their own gospel, and it's okay. I mean, there's a lot of successful moving companies that know a lot, that want to do things their way. For me, in witnessing what IOMI has done, they really provide a gold standard of excellence as it relates to office moving. I think the biggest challenge with the industry is that because turnover amongst crew-level employees is so high, most don't invest at the level of providing the certification down to crew-level employees because they don't see a return on the investment. So we will continue to invest at the crew level regardless of what our turnover rate is. And it's our job as an executive team to ensure that we're doing what we can to keep turnover as low as possible. So I would say the investment in IOMI from a direct industry knowledge and best practice is namely what's most important from my vantage point. And then internally within the office, off of the trucks, if you will, we're very receptive to employees, and we encourage employees to talk to us about classes or certifications that they can take, and we can invest in them to take so that they can become better in what they're doing. So as we like to say, the door is always open. And I don't subscribe to, we don't have a budget for it. I subscribe to, what do we need to do to be able to make this happen? So the answer may not be yes. It may need to be, not no, this is what we need to do in order to make it happen. So
I think that goes a long way with a lot of people, just knowing the fact that you care about them and about their growth. So for any individual that is looking to eventually fill your shoes when you someday retire, what are some of the best practices, or what would set somebody up for success to get into your kind of role?
Number one, you've got to be an expert. You've got to be an expert not only in, outward facing in front of clients that are on the move and talk about, the business challenges that they have and what their business objectives are as they align with a particular project. But also, an expert as it relates to, running the business, understanding the importance of cash flow. When do you acquire another truck? When do you pull back on resources in one particular area and reassign them elsewhere? So really, I started in the industry on the trucks. So, I worked my way up through project management. I've seen the residential side of the business and the commercial side of the business. At the time, I never thought in a million years that it would make such an impact on my career. But just that knowledge overall, I can walk into a house or I can walk into an office and understand how the project needs to happen. Gives you a different dimension of expertise when you're in front of a client that's under stress and has to make a move. So so that's on the moving side of everything. Then there's a whole people side of the equation. That again, early in my career, I had no idea what an impact EQ has, emotional intelligence has on anyone's development. So I would say my playbook would be become an expert, be mindful of your emotional intelligence, and do what you can to become a more emotionally intelligent person as early as possible, and always know that you have room for improvement.
I would love to focus a little more time on emotional intelligence as well as developing people skills,
Sure.
Because that impacts everybody. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. As a growing professional, those are things that we all have to continue to practice and grow on. Mm-hmm. So what have you found throughout your career? Like, what have been some, great tips or winning strategies that have worked for you?
Oh, I'm thinking of Bob Slevin, who used to work with me religiously on emotional intelligence, and I was the most emotionally unintelligent person when he started working with me early on. Gosh.
And look where you are now.
Well, look, I my PI index testing, people may not know this, but on the empathy meter, I test out of 100, a 2. Donald Trump is a 3. So I'm the guy in that class that we took the PI index, and somebody, the moderator, looks up and says, "Who's Jim Stevens?" And I raise my hand and stand up, and I stood up, and there's probably 75 people, and he said, "Look at this guy. He is less empathetic than Donald Trump." So it's not easy for me to be empathetic. I'm a guy that sees the hill and wants to take the hill, and I was a guy that would take the hill by throwing everybody off on the way up. I think for me, the advice that I received from Bob that's so simple now, but at the time was so difficult for me to kind of understand is, deposits and withdrawals. We're all in life, we're walking around, and every interaction that we have, it's an opportunity to make a deposit with that individual or make a withdrawal. So I was an individual that 9 times out of 10, I was making a withdrawal. You were either doing something that was helping me take the mountain, or you weren't. And 2 out of 100 times, I would be empathetic to it. And 98 out of 100 times, I would be unempathetic to it. Realizing that there are other people that don't necessarily share the exact same goals and the exact same strategies as you, and being empathetic to their situation and doing what you can to slow down, be conscious of what they need to do to take their next step in their development, and being consciously aware of kind of the actions that you're exuding. So I've told that story, and perhaps one of the best compliments that I've gotten in Phoenix thus far is I had a colleague turn to me and kind of squint and say, I just don't believe that you were actually that guy. And I very much was.
I just appreciate you being so honest and vulnerable, because so many of us don't like to talk about, our weaknesses or what we're not good at. And so the fact that you were able to identify it and work on it, and now look at where you are and how you've grown and evolved into a phenomenal leader, I think that speaks volumes.
Well, thank you. I'm not a finished product. It's a challenge for me every single day. There are plenty of instances where I want to react, and I used to be very fire ready aim. But just by being more aware of who I am and where I kind of fit into the equation as it relates to conversations or meetings, certainly has helped me a great deal. So
Let's talk about change and how change feels. I mean, certainly in that process, I'm sure you felt a little uncomfortable along the way because you were changing general practices. So can you share a little bit more about what that looked like for you and how you were able to get through it?
I don't think I've ever met someone that said change is very comfortable. It's very uncomfortable. But where we are 10 years from now is not going to be where we're at now. So change is an inevitable part of the equation. I think, first of all, being conscious that we shouldn't be fighting that. You should be attempting to embrace it, which is a lot easier said than done, I think is step one. But really, at the end of the day, what M3 does is we provide change management solutions. I mean, when you think about it, so we're in the industry as leaders in change management solutions, and recognizing that you've got to do what you can to relieve stress for those that are going through a stressful time. And realizing at the fundamental level that everyone is a human being, and everyone has external stresses. I think just being consciously aware of where you fit into that equation. Again, not leaving your ego at the door, if you will, and doing what you can to help be a positive change impact on whatever you're dealing with. So.
Yeah, I love that. I know one thing that I've always practiced is I just try and help people more than, help them to progress in their life or their career and help them in that equation more so than focusing on how they can help me. And so I think we share a mutual philosophy.
Yeah, and there's so much authenticity in that. I mean, that's what you exude out in the community and everything that you're doing. And, look at what you're doing now. I'm not surprised at where it's going to be. I joked with you before that you were going to have Colin Powell on here one day.
Maybe someday. We'll see.
No, it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen. Look, at the end of the day, we all need to be focused on the details and let everything else take care of itself. And, 9 times out of 10, it's going to. So it's not about it's not necessarily about where you go. It's about the path that you take to get there.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to spend some time with me here on this podcast to be so vulnerable and open and share some best practices that have helped set you up for success. So thank you again for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.